So, hello for everyone. For today, we're gonna be talking about the suggested English curriculum proposed by the project Colombia Aprende, Colombia Bilingüe. So, what happened? Um, Throughout these years, the government have been fighting with the lack of English learning of our students in Colombia. So, what happened is that um, they want to create different projects in order to achieve that English learning goal. A big issue is that the governments of the past, just forget about the process, and they just introduce a new project and another new project, and that was a kind of cyclical process, and that was, in few words, happened. So now the last government introduced the suggested English curriculum in 2015. So the purpose of the suggested English curriculum was to achieve um, that learners, when they graduate, in this case in Colombia, is when you when you go to 11 when you get to 11th grade, you are about to graduate from school. So in that case, they expect that the students at that moment will achieve an upper intermediate level, in other words, a B1 level of English proficiency. So that's one of the main objectives, but also to support the process not only in English but also of content that the students learn. So uh, was like a combination of English and content. So in other terms of a structure of the suggested English curriculum, we start with its components. First of all, they mention the basic learning rights. So they they told us like what are like the facts or themes or subjects or topics that students should learn on each grade until 11th grade in order to achieve that learning goal. Um, they just introduce for all grades what are they expect that the students learn on each grade. Also, they talked us about the syllabus because the suggested English curriculum also wanted to support the curriculum. Not only that we're going to teach grammar and vocabulary and that, just that, but also that the students get like familiar with the content they learn, to to have like a mixed process between Spanish and English. So there are like different requirements of what they need to know, what they need to do, what they need to be, and what they need to learn. So the suggested English curriculum just explained throughout the document all these different kind of things for for all grades to transition to 11th grade. Also proposed to us the different methodologies that we can use that are like the more applicable to what the suggested English curriculum expect. For example, the task based methodology, or the project based or problem based methodologies, and etc. Also, the suggested English curriculum recommend tools, some practical material that we can use, practical material that was used in other governments, that was introduced by other governments, but it was not continued with the new governments. So they wanted to introduce that. So, for example, we have like Learn English with Bonnie Bonita, English for Colombia, ECO, and the English Please, the English Kid, and now the basic learning rights. The basic learning rights are we can say the most, or like, yes, the newest, the newest document or the practical material that the Colombia Bilingüe offers to us. Why it is important to know it? Because it is going to be a guide for us to what are the students or learners expect to learn and achieve on each grade. So from transition to 11, they explain to us what are the kind of models, topics, also English objectives, English aims that they have for students to achieve.
When we are talking about the suggested English curriculum and the basic learning rights in Colombia, we must understand that they are not going to be an easy task for any teacher. What is this for? The reason for saying this is that these suggested curriculum and basic learning rights are not applicable for every single context. In this, the suggested English curriculum and the basic learning rights themselves talk about this. These are only as suggestions. There are some bases that we can start from. The reason why they are so important in the time of the praxis is that we are not, as teachers, we are not going to start from a zero. What does this mean? Creating material and knowing how to teach, what to teach is not an easy task. It's something that requires a lot of time, a lot of work, but this kind of simplifies that aspect. However, it is not going to be an easy task either for the teachers, of course, because they have to adjust this material, these tools, from to the context that they need. For example, in a third grade, they suggest some things. Let's suppose that some levels of English are required in this level. However, in a real context, as the processes are not carried as they are supposed to, the things are going to be very difficult. So the teacher must understand this context and start adjusting, setting the things so they are really applicable. As I said before, this is kind of a standardized basis. Rather than starting from a zero, it is better to start from something that experts in the field have worked a lot of time in this. So the reason why it is important is also that we have changed the way we have seen things. What does this mean? In the past, we were relying on some other methodologies. We were trying to teach only language. The most important factor here is that we have left behind those thoughts. We are now relying on some content and language integrated learning. Even if this is not a pure methodology that appears in some books, a lot of research have been made about this. However, this is kind of an integration, and it is necessary. Why? Because we consider that the content is something that students can recall easily. It's easier to recall, for example, if we are talking about values, if we are talking about health care, that relying to some structures, some grammar structures and vocabulary. It is not like vocabulary in isolation is not easy to remember, and we have to be honest. But when then is some content integrated in this, it is easy to rely on that vocabulary. It's easy to recall it. Another important aspect of these documents is the goal they want to achieve. As I said before, it is not like true what they said in terms of the level they are supposed to have. But this can be said because of the context, because the reality we are in this moment. However, with the pass of the years, with the methodologies being applied for future teachers that are now preparing themselves for teaching English in the future, they are going to apply these strategies, these methodologies, these tools, and maybe the achievements, the goals they had in mind in those moments, that of having the 11th graders graduating with a B1 English level, it is not going to be like so far. It's going to be more real, more feasible, and that's one of the most important things. We are really carrying the country into a bilingual country, little by little, of course. This is a process of importance that needs to be carried because, as I said before, has a lot of methodologies, tools that are going to be very helpful for us, and we have to start applying them now. The experts didn't waste so much effort, spend so much effort in this by not applying these tools.